Hello YouTube. Today I'll once again speak about Africa. Look, Africa is a mysterious land where locals often encounter unexplained phenomena. They have been doing so for thousands of years. Since the middle of the 18th century, hundreds of expeditions from Europe and America have been sent to the continent for different research purposes. Scientists were fascinated by the local splendor of flora and fauna. Impenetrable and virgin jungles gave rise to the wildest fantasies. At the beginning of the 20th century, scientists from Italy, France, Britain, and Germany admitted the possibility of the existence of unknown species of large animals in Africa. Hypotheses varied. Some claim that there could be giant sloths that had outlived their ancestors, who died out several tens of thousands of years ago. Others even considered African giants to be dinosaurs. African residents, different tribal representatives, were not always friendly, and therefore it was rarely possible to establish contact with them. For of course various reasons. We're not going to go into them, but they also had reasons not to be friendly. Anyway, because of this, it was extremely difficult to interview the local population, but sometimes it was possible. So in 1776, Leven Bonaventure published his book where he tells about the incredible journey to the Congo. According to him, the inhabitants of this country are amazing people who believe in the existence of huge lizards. In other words, dinosaurs. One of them is Mokele-Mbembe. It was described as a large lizard moving on four legs. Its tail reached 3 to 4 human height. The average height of the Congolese at that time was about 170 centimeters. The head is so small with an elongated and flattened muzzles. The neck is long, almost like a tail. The author himself saw only footprints. They belong to a 3-fingered creature that must have weighed at least 10 tons and maybe more. In general, Africans described a typical diplodocus. Similar footprints were found later. It should be understood that the Congo is a country where heavy rains often occur, and the traces left cannot be preserved for years. This conclusion was already made in 1930 by an American biologist who, it is alleged, happened to see these footprints himself. And by the way, in the Soviet Union, scientists also did not abandon the hypothesis that dinosaurs could live in the forests of Africa and South America. The fact is that dinosaurs are not warm-blooded reptiles and cannot live in places where winter is present. So Congo would be ideally suited for the residence of a large reptile. And considering how much vegetation there is, the food base would allow an entire population of Mokele-Mbembe to exist. Skeptics immediately rejected the theory that dinosaurs could live in the modern world. Several expeditions were sent to the indigenous inhabitants of Congo. Africans were shown photos of rhinos, elephants, and hippos, the largest animals of the African continent. Of the inhabitants of 6 tribes, only 2 people recognized the Mokele-Mbembe rhinoceros. By the way, there were more than 400 locals, if you count all those who were shown animals, that were interviewed, so to say. But Canadian scientists returned to their homeland and they released a large article where they exposed the myth of a living dinosaur. Nevertheless, Soviet researchers continued to search for the dinosaur. One of them is a well-known Africanist, publicist, journalist, and cryptozoologist, Nikolai Nepomniachtchi. And I've referred to him in my other videos because I like his work. And he's written dozens of books. Very interesting personality. It must be said that the Russian researcher himself believes in the existence of Mokele-Mbembe. His confidence was achieved by the results of numerous expeditions. He communicated with a large number of representatives of different tribes, and those who lived in the jungle have a legend about this living dinosaur. The inhabitants of Congo were shown a picture where Diplodocus, and after all, without any exception, they recognized it as Mokele-Mbembe. Nikolai Nepomniachtchi revealed that what made him believe in the reality of this creature. It was in 1986. That expedition included a visit to 3 African countries at once: the modern Republic of the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Angola. In all 3 states, Soviet researchers tried to find traces of the presence of Mokele-Mbembe, and they were found. In the literal sense of the word, there were footprints. The length of each of them reached 68 centimeters. The depth is more than 20 centimeters. It should be understood that the forest soil is soft enough, but in order for the footprint to be so impressive, the weight of the animal must exceed 8 to 10 tons. In addition, the researchers noticed that branches at a height of more than 15 meters were stripped along the entire route of the trail chain. This means that some creature of great height managed to break off the branches of trees and do it regularly, since the entire chain of tracks stretched for several kilometers. Those tracks or footprints had one peculiarity: they belonged not only to a huge creature, but also to a 3-fingered one. Or 3-toed one, I guess. This important detail for zoologists is a signal that they are not facing an artiodactyl or a mammal, but these proofs are not all. In this expedition near the Congo River itself, Nikolai Nepomniachtchi was able to record someone's scream at night. It sounded more like guttural singing with notes of hoarseness. The recorded sounds were sent to the zoological institutes of the USSR. None of them were able to identify it as what's the right word? Belonging to the known animal on this planet. So the scream could belong to a cryptid. All this together prompted Nikolai Nepomniachtchi to believe in the reality of Mokele-Mbembe. As for photographic evidence, the forests of the Congo, the Amazon, and many forests of Southeast Asia are so dense that even flying over a cornfield, it's impossible to see what is under the crown of trees. And the vastness of this forest is so high that in 2018, just in the forest of the Congo, it was possible to notice previously unaccounted herd of elephants numbering 44 individuals. If such a huge thing was not noticed before, then Mokele-Mbembe could still not be detected until now. But whose tracks did the Soviet researchers see in 1986? That's unknown. Now I want to mention the works of Lawrence Green. And I was in Africa a little later than Nikolai Nepomniachtchi, and I couldn't be with the Soviet expedition. I escaped from the Soviet Union. But I knew people in Africa, big game hunter, Russian himself, who told me interesting stories. And he's been living in Africa for quite a long time by then. But Lawrence Green was a wonderful South African writer who knew Africa really well. And what's amazing to me, which I did not know, that at least 2 of his books were translated in mid-1960s and published in the Soviet Union. It's Tales of Old Africa, Tales of Lost Islands. Very, very interesting. Now, according to Lawrence Green, dinosaurs and pterodactyls became extinct in Africa about 100 million years ago. I can't believe in the existence of such animal fossils, he said, but I cannot explain some unusual stories about prehistoric monsters and giant flying lizards, which have been reported in recent years by trustworthy persons. Recently, reports of flying monsters have been coming from various parts of tropical Africa. Experienced naturalist Ivan Sanderson described a meeting in Cameroon with an animal similar to a pterodactyl. Colonel Pittman heard about the pterodactyl in northern Rhodesia and recorded this information. He was amazed at the African who described with such accuracy an animal that had disappeared a long time ago. Dr. Jeffries from University of Witwatersrand, who has lived in tropical Africa for a long time, especially studied the stories of local residents about such animals that you cannot find in museums. In northern Rhodesia, Africans were shown a picture of pterodactyl. They immediately recognized this animal and told them that it was what it was called. Jeffries tried to explain this by ancestral memory, a vision inherited from those distant days when ancestors were hiding from monsters. By the way, Ivan Yefremov had a very interesting story, banned in the Soviet Union for many years, about this ancestral memory. Anyway, back to Lawrence Green. He said that the famous German fur trader Karl Hagenbeck once equipped an expedition to Lake Bangweolo in northern Rhodesia in search of a monster known to Africans as Chipekwe. He received information about Chipekwe from two different sources. This animal was described as half dragon, half elephant. One message came from an Englishman hunter, in whose words Hagenbeck had no reason to doubt. The other is from his own hunter, Joseph Menges, a man with many years of experience. At one time, Menges discovered a new species of wild donkeys in Somalia and delivered one live species to Europe. Hagenbeck was struck by one detail in Menges' message. Menges noted that the Bushmen depicted Chipekwe in their rock paintings. All Africans were firmly convinced of the existence of Chipekwe. Hagenbeck assigned this difficult task to Hans Schomburg, an experienced hunter who once searched for legendary dwarf hippos in Liberia and found them. Catching the hippos was not easy at all. How much harder it is to get a live dragon, if at all possible. It was at the beginning of our century, during the journey. I think at that time he's meaning 20th century. During the journey, Schomburg was attacked by Africans, but eventually he reached Lake Bangweolo. Local residents confirmed the story about Chipekwe and said that it devoured all the hippos in the lake. Schomburg wanted to organize a monster hunt, so to say, but it was the unhealthiest time of the year in this terrible region of Africa. Malaria brought down both him and his assistants, so the search was stopped. There was a trader and hunter, Hughes, who had been coming to Bangweolo for 18 years and stubbornly followed the trail of rumors and assigned a large premium, a bale of cloth, to any African who brought him a bone of Chipekwe skin or showed traces of this animal. He eventually met an African who claimed that his grandfather had participated in a Chipekwe hunt on the Luapula River. This memorable hunt has become a legend of the tribe. All the best hunters of the tribe took part in the hunt, which lasted the whole day. They were throwing spears at Chipekwe, trying to find a vulnerable spot. The Africans said that Chipekwe has smooth dark skin and one light horn, like a rhinoceros. Hughes believed these stories because he knew the people from this lake well, and he knew how to distinguish truth from fiction. But he believed that the monster had disappeared in the memory of a living generation. If Chipekwe had lived in Bangweolo, then during such a long stay here, Hughes would have found out about him. Here's what's interesting. Soviet zoologist Igor Kimushkin wrote once about another potentially living fossil, a pterodactyl, which local tribes called Kongamata, and they also recognized it from the pictures, only they said it was not gray but red. Listen, there is much more in Africa. I know about South of Africa based on my field research there. And I'm most interested in Namibia and certain areas of South Africa. But the more we study about this, the better. Trust me. And there were a number of Russians, as you can see, who are interested in the area as well, for their own reasons. So I'll tell you more about Africa later as the time comes. And please support my research. And I thank those who have. There are links in the description to this video. And please subscribe to my channel and tell others. Thank you.